kind of magic geometry here is that if you were to make I'll do the B up here this time, fully diminished B chord like this, all right, and I were to move it up a minor third, those are all inversions of the same chord, which is kind of cool. And so that's one of the things that I did in the intro, was I picked that one spot where I knew I had this F diminished, and I just to kind of flaunt the diminished, that terminating scale of the diminished, that you can move it up, and it basically is just creating new inversions of those 4 notes that are in that chord. It's kind of cool. So it does have that aspect to it. Half diminished, which is the diminished triad. You have fully diminished, which it adds a flat 7th note to that, so flattened already from its minor position, and that really creates a massively tense chord, fraught with tritones and all types of stress. So if you listen to a fully diminished chord and you look at what it looks like there, that we've got built into it tritone, tritone, and then that kind of like clashing sound, which is kind of cool. Primarily in my experience as sort of a passing chord or a leading tone, meaning they're gonna no matter where you put them, they're gonna want to resolve up or back towards a root of some kind. You have these different intervals that all have different roles and positions, right? And so you have your root, and then one that has a very strong interaction with that is your dominant, especially when you turn your dominant into a dominant 7. And that's one of the things I was doing in the Friends in Low Places demo there. When I was playing my E chord, I turned it into a dominant 7 to give it a big pull back to that A. The same thing is true that you could create the same sort of tension if I want to push very strongly back to this. The other scale interval that really pushes and leads back in a very strong way toward the root would be the 7. That chord, especially if we play it as its chord in a fully diminished fashion. Okay, that resolve is very strong. Now you can take that on the road. You could take that tool or that trick, right, and move it anywhere in the chord progression. So let's say instead of wanting that big landing to fall on the root, it could also be used to go to the relative minor. Okay, in the case of that George Harrison song, Sweet Lord, that's one where he's going back and forth to these two, just pedaling back and forth to these two chords. Then he makes a move up, kind of sweetening it. And then, right as he's ready to send it back, now all of a sudden that tees that off in such an interesting way. Let's talk for a minute about the 2 different types of diminished chords. We've been moving around just now with this fully diminished chord, meaning it has a flattened, double flattened 7th note built into that chord. What if you want something a little bit less intense? Well, in the case of Fly Me to the Moon, it moves you through the chord progression. Ooh, love that chord. All right, so this is a different chord. This one is called minor 7, flat 5. Okay? And so this one doesn't have that double flattened 7th note. It just basically has the minor 7, right? And then you're bringing that 5 note back, okay? And so what it ends up looking like in the end, oops, wrong one. Okay, that's the shape. So you start off with a bar, and then you throw these on the D and B strings 1 fret up from wherever that bar was created. So in this case, it's a bar across the 2nd fret, as if you were playing a B bar chord, right? You're gonna bar that off, and then you're gonna put on the 3rd fret of the D string and the 3rd fret of the B string. That's the rest of that chord. And so this one can create a push. So that one has sort of some jazzy motion to it. You can use this also anytime that you want to kind of like push up from one chord to another in a more kind of subtle way, just like a chromatic movement. So let's say if I was moving from this D, so I'm moving from a D to a D sharp, minor 7, flat 5, and then I'd move up to the E minor. So that's kind of cool. So you can use it as a bridge to give motion and to kind of like declare you're moving in a particular trajectory towards another chord. And so that's kind of a cool move. And so there's different ways to use it too. You can resolve to a major or a minor. Diminished chords enhance, improve, electrify chord progressions. So use them, experiment with them. Think of them as a tool for pushing towards a destination. But you also have to know your geography a little bit. Going chromatically upwards, and you don't want it to be too blatant. You may want to use this minor 7, flat 5, whereas the other one is a little more harsh, but can make the point, in a way that no other chord I don't think really can. Have fun, and I will see you on the next one.